So, Death Stranding, eh? That's what Kojima has been up to all these long months in between touring various game development studios around the world, telling us what Blu-rays and albums he's been buying, what he's been eating, and coming up with names for his studio's new mascot. It's a new game starring Norman Reedus, the Walking Dead actor who had signed up to work with Kojima on the famously doomed Silent Hills. Death Stranding looks equally intriguing though. But what's it all about? Well, let's start with the basics. Kojima said in a series of tweets via his personal assistant that a mass stranding is a phenomenon where groups of whales and or dolphins are beached. There are live strandings, when the animals are washed up while still alive and there is still a chance to return them to their world, and there's death strandings, when they're already dead. The title suggests we're definitely dealing with the latter scenario, and so death is possibly a major theme of the game. If we run with that, and this is just speculation, it was from fish first moving from the sea to the land that gave Earth so many forms of life as we know it. The handprints on Reedus' character hark back to the prehistoric man, while the oil on his hands, the oil rising from man's handprints, and the piles of dead sea life seem to point to the role of humans in the destruction of all that life in reverse. So perhaps Norman Reedus' character and mankind in general is now having to answer for what it has done, because as the cords attached to all the sea life and to the baby seem to suggest, we're all connected and we share the same fate in the end. Something that's more true now than ever with the rise of social media. Running with that prehistoric man theme, Kojima has said, drawing from one of his major influences, the writer Kobo Abe, that the role of stick and rope in mankind's evolution is very important to the game. The stick keeps enemies at bay and helps us to evolve, and the rope captures and binds the things that are close to us. Are these gameplay elements of Death Stranding being subtly spelled out for us? And will the game have an online component? It seems that, as he experimented with in all the hubbub surrounding the PT demo, Kojima wants players to come together to figure out all his riddles. In our teaser, we featured both the connecting strands of handcuffs, umbilical cords, and also stranding of whales. Of course, there are also other hints in there, the dog tags being one of these. Our game is still far from being released, but the game has already begun. What are you able to spot? The dog tags mentioned in that tweet are the ones hanging around Norman Reedus' neck, which seem innocuous enough. But when looked at in a high-resolution promotional poster for the game, there are mysterious equations etched into the side, which fans have naturally already identified. The numerals you see there are the Schwarzschild radius and the Dirac equation. Both of these can be explained rather simply by saying they're all to do with timey-wimey quantum physics type stuff. Any object whose radius is smaller than its Schwarzschild radius is called a black hole. The surface at the Schwarzschild radius acts as an event horizon, i.e. the point of no return. Neither light nor particles can escape through this surface from the region inside, which is where the name black hole comes from. Now, the Dirac equation brings together the two cornerstones of modern physics: quantum mechanics, which describes the behavior of tiny objects, and Einstein's special theory of relativity, which describes the behavior of fast-moving objects. So, Dirac's equation describes how particles like electrons behave when they travel close to the speed of light. This little equation also predicted the existence of antimatter, the mirror image of all known particles. So what does this all tell us about Kojima's game? Well, it points to definite sci-fi themes, which are already evidenced by the presence of robotic umbilical cords and cool glowy handcuffs. But when coupled with other comments about the game by the Kojima Productions Twitter account and retweeted by Kojima himself, perhaps we can dig a little deeper. From the days of coin-operated games, games have had a continue option if you were to fail at your mission. Failing would also mean the death of your game character. In making a game, both in story and in the game system, you depict death. However, death is about to have a new meaning. Now, what could that mean? Death as a mechanic or a story element other than a fail state? How is death going to have a new meaning? Perhaps we're seeing it from another angle, like past the point of no return and through the other side of a black hole. Maybe what Norman Reedus' character is experiencing is travelling past the point of death itself. So that's one possible premise, but how will it play out? These Kojima Productions tweets kept the intrigue going. Comparing it to driving a car you're familiar with will have the same familiar feeling when accelerating or braking. It's when driving this familiar car without stress for a while that you'll first notice the difference. That's the kind of game this needs to be. Does without stress mean that the game will not feature combat or any kind of a death fail state? If you're already dead, you can't die again after all. And experiencing death from the other side is certainly looking at something familiar in a different way. Now, this is all just speculation, obviously. Not much of the game actually exists outside of what we've already seen, which isn't a game but a teaser, and the teaser itself was put together in just 2.5 months. Kojima has said that he hasn't even decided on a game engine yet, and what little of the game that exists outside of his head is, according to him, a lot of planning documents. Basically, the game is a long way off, so it's probably wise not to take anything seen in the trailer as definite. What we do know, as confirmed to Eurogamer in a recent interview with Kojima himself, is that the baby is not a clone of Norman's character, so its relevance, and the relevance of the weird floaty dudes, is still up for theorizing. Perhaps the baby is simply himself, and the task he is assigned past the point of death is to relive the life that led him to that point, standing naked and handcuffed in front of the floaty dudes as if awaiting judgment from on high. This theory would also tie into the quote from Auguries of Innocence at the start of the teaser. William Blake's poem, like many of his works, is about what happens when innocence is corrupted by evil, and what happens to society as a whole when we mistreat others. It basically says, don't be a dick to people or to nature, because that never ends well for anyone. An augury is an omen, so perhaps he's looking back at his life and seeing what his actions have wrought and what consequences they had in the long run. Anything's possible. And whatever happens, speculation is fun. Add yours in the comments below. Please do give this video a like if it gave you food for thought. And subscribe to Eurogamer for more in-depth analysis and adventures in VR porn. Yup, you heard that right.